Hey everyone, welcome back to Deja on Demand. If you are new here, my name is Deja Piper, and on this podcast, we talk about literally everything. So if you would like to hear something new, check out my Instagram stories at Deja on Demand right after the show and let me know. In today's episode, we're getting super vulnerable. We're going to be talking about body image and how hard it's been to come to terms with myself. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I think we all know how toxic the internet can be, but for a teenage girl, it can be that times 10. My generation grew up with technology. We could recite vines before we could see our times tables. Growing up like that was fun, but it was also very detrimental. We were exposed to a lot of things before we had the maturity to understand what they were. Kids were talking about sex and drugs before I even made it past 12. The amount of toxicity on the internet is beyond me. You are told how to look, dress, and act just so someone will like you. I mentioned in the last episode that I was very consumed with wanting to be popular. In middle school, all the popular girls were skinny, had either straight or a very loose curl pattern, mixed or white. I pretty much grew up in a majority white school system, and being black, you really did not know where you fit in. So for a long time, I tried to assimilate into the school as best as I could, which was changing my personality basically, straightening my hair, and trying to fit in with the rest of the white kids. It wasn't until I got to high school and was in a school cluster that had a lot of different cultures and ethnicities that I realized that I could be myself. But that's a whole nother episode. We're talking about body image. So my first ever episode, I talked about glow ups and how they could affect you and how you don't need to glow up to be beautiful. A huge part of loving yourself is loving the body you were given. So the main reason why I decided to basically do this entire episode was the major fact that a lot of girls think they're alone in not liking their body or what they look like. So one of the big misconceptions that any teenage girl or any female in general can have is that they are alone, and that is simply not true. You are not alone, and there are a lot of girls going through the same exact thing that you are going through. And how this has affected me as a teenager is what I talked about in my glow up episode, which is constantly comparing myself to other females. And I think I've kind of grown out of that, but I haven't completely, come to terms with everything, considering I barely know who I want to be in life. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but how people constantly are telling you that you're beautiful and you're pretty and you're absolutely gorgeous. And you can go on the internet and society can just take that away from you in a matter of seconds, whether it's a tweet or Instagram post of people wanting this body type or boys wanting you to look this way, or girls do the same thing. Girls want you to look this way. A certain personality, certain attributes that you don't necessarily have. And colorism can play a part in discrimination of females in general, and all of that together is all on the internet, and that can really hurt you. One thing we are taught we're not really taught, but we pick up from other people on the internet is self-deprecating jokes. And I had a really bad habit of that, calling myself ugly and pointing out all these different flaws in my face. And although people tell you that you're not alone, like I said before, you don't necessarily feel that 100%. You have people tell you that you're pretty and you still don't feel pretty. I think a lot of that comes from constantly being on the internet and seeing a trend and what people look like, what people act like, how people dress. People are getting lip fillers and all that stuff I talked about before in my glow up episode. I keep referencing it, so maybe you should go check it out. But you notice that all these females look the same. They're dressing the same. They're acting the same. Their hair is the same. Their Instagram posts are the same. Everything just looks the exact same. And so you feel as if you have to adopt that because that's the only way, which is like totally bizarre and ridiculous. Being different is absolutely okay. I don't personally like to be on the internet like that. I just go on there whether I'm promoting the podcast, which I'm trying to be a lot more active. I am so sorry. Promoting the podcast or working on the Instagram post for my organization and contacting other organizations because their main source of contact is Instagram. But I try not to be on there too much because I feel like it's very toxic. And I'm the type where I get so in my head about things, and I'm one of those people who are very susceptible to feeling insecure and as if like the whole world is just like beautiful and you're not. But I have been working on that. That is a good thing. If only I had one of those little touchpad things where you press a button and then it was like, woohoo. I have to do something about that. We're gonna get that. But sometimes I get that way because I don't look a certain way and I don't act like your average girl. I'm gonna touch on it just a little bit for like a quick second. Acting a certain way is something that I want to talk about because, like I said, I don't act like other girls. I'm not a bruh girl, but I'm also not a girly girl. I'm like very in between. I'm not the type of girl to get in your face and have an attitude, but I'm also not the type of girl to let you walk all over her. And I think a lot of people, or society in general, makes it seem like you have to be either one of the guys or like this innocent little girl, or you have to be this bad chick who's like rebellious and does drugs and all that stuff. But there are people in between, and I think one of the other things that get brought up a lot is body shape, because there's a lot of people like me, like not plus size, but we're not skinny, and like we eat and gain weight, but we don't gain that much weight. Like it's just, I just don't think a lot of things are meant for us in betweeners, and I don't think a lot of people really appreciate us as much as they should. But you know, I digress. So you heard me mention, I think I talked about it, I grew up with a family that constantly calls me beautiful. Beautiful is actually my nickname, but for a long time I didn't feel it. I would say that when you grow up in a majority white school, a lot of the white girls are very skinny. Like, just hear me out. So a lot of girls were skinny in my school, and I wasn't that, but I wasn't plus size, but I still wasn't skinny. So middle school to freshman year, well, I don't say middle school, I would say 8th grade and freshman year, I had a bad habit of accidentally skipping meals, which wasn't an accident. I was doing it on purpose, but calling it an accident, like, oh, I forgot. Now I don't do that anymore. I think I've kind of like got to this point where I only eat when I'm hungry. I've learned to like listen to my body, but I did at some point like skip meals, or I would eat a bunch and be like, oh, I ate too much food, so let me not eat as much, which is really bad. You should not do that. That is very unhealthy. But at the time, I thought I was really doing something. If you're like me, you could eat a whole party-sized bag of chocolate chip cookies, no problem. Then go ahead, do it. But don't ever deprive yourself of food. Or if you are someone who's trying to gain weight, don't eat too much to the point where you feel sick. Like, take care of yourself. Eat when you're hungry. Even if you grow up in a household where you're constantly told that you are beautiful, you can still struggle with body image because you're not gonna always be around those family members. You're not always gonna go to your cousin's house or your aunt's house like that. You're not gonna be around them 24/7. You go to school, and school is the ultimate breeding ground for insecurities because, like I said, everyone looks the same. And y'all know what I'm talking about, like those certain girls who like they kind of dress the same, they're really popular, they get all the attention and everybody knows their name, and they're constantly dating people, and you're just like, man, if I wanted a boyfriend or a girlfriend, like, I guess I would have to look like that, which is not true. And for a while I did want a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but I don't. I like the single life. 17 years strong at this point, and I'm living my best life, so I'm good on that. But you do feel like you have to look this way in order to get a significant other, and that's not true. Sometimes you feel invisible. Like, no one will ever notice you and people make comments about you. I was never bullied, but there was a time when I was in middle school, and I think it was in like 6th grade, and this girl told me that my nose was huge like a cow. And she said it in front of like everybody on the bus. I didn't do anything to her. I was literally just sitting and minding my business. But yeah, and I felt embarrassed. I'll admit it has been in the back of my mind, but I'm comfortable in myself now. I like what I see in the mirror. So like now when I see her in the halls, I don't feel any resentment towards her, because at the end of the day, we're in middle school. Middle schoolers are so freaking mean. But I don't feel bad, and I don't feel like my nose is a problem, you know? I feel beautiful. One of the biggest things that can come from not liking who you are or liking yourself is anxiety. And that is something, I have a diagnosis, but I know for a fact I have it. It's one of those things where, how do I explain it? Okay, so I don't know if you have ever been in a room where you feel like everyone around you is so pretty and you're an outsider and you feel ugly. You get this sort of like, it's like this weird burning sensation in your chest, and your heart rate starts picking up, and you start thinking like, do they notice the pimple on my face? Do they notice that my nose is big, even though I've come to terms with it? Like, will they still make fun of me for it? Are they thinking that like my shoes are ugly, or my shirt, like, is my outfit okay? Am I trying too hard? And I don't know if you guys have ever had a panic attack before. And I won't say I had a full-on panic attack. I got to the panic part before I grounded myself. Like, I didn't get to the crying on the floor panic attack, but I was able to ground myself before I could get there, but I could feel it building up. And so that's kind of the feeling that I get sometimes. Or if I'm anxious about a test or something, I'll start panicking. And I think it's called panic disorder or something along those lines. I don't know if I have that, but I do know that I have come close to having a full-on panic attack before. So you constantly question yourself, like the examples I gave before, and your self-worth when you're taught that being different is a bad thing. And one thing I want to emphasize that I've said over and over is that being different is completely okay. Like, there's absolutely, positively nothing wrong with it. We live in a society where everyone is the same, everyone dresses the same. You look around in your schools, outside, people are the same as each other. And when you are different, society decides that they don't want to include you in things. They bully you, they drag you on the internet, they make you feel like crap when you're not. And in reality, you're just very in touch with who you are, and you have decided that being different is okay. And it takes a lot to get to a place where you're okay with being different. And that's where I want to help you. I feel like I have gotten off track with that and with what I originally wanted to do with this podcast. And over this fall break, I've started thinking about things. I have no school, so I got to think about where I want this podcast to go, and I've kind of come a little full circle in realizing that these type of topics are something that I want to talk about. This is very important, and I think a lot of teenage girls or teenagers in general need to hear it. Being different is completely fine. There's nothing wrong with it, and this is coming from someone who is very different. I like corny jokes. I laugh at them before people even get a chance to laugh at them. And even when I'm done telling the joke, I'm laughing, but no one else is. But it's fine, because I laugh till tears come out of my eyes, so it makes me happy. But I feel like I'm almost, I won't say I am, but I am close to being as different as you can get, considering I'm a triple minority, which means I'm Black, I'm female, and I'm gay, and I'm very cheesy and weird. Kinda crazy, kinda not. I can be petty. So yeah, I'm pretty different. Just know that standing out is what's gonna make you happier in the long run than trying to fit in. Trying to fit in is something that you should not do. So I guess what I'm getting at with this is go against what society is teaching you, and you will truly find happiness. And I cannot wait to make more episodes about being happy and finding who you are, because that is truly the greatest feeling in the world. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of the episode. I know, so tragic, you're crying, but at this point, you should be used to the heartbreak, okay? And as always, new episodes come out every single Sunday, so make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music. That way you never miss an episode. If you like the show, or even if you didn't, make sure to leave a rating or review down below. If you missed the Instagram handle or you totally forgot because you were listening to me, don't worry, just check out the description box for all my links. I love you guys so much, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Mwah. This podcast is brought to you by Pearls Community Restoration, healing the soul to restore the body.